Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Oh man, I don't know what CNN was thinking. I don't know what they were expecting. The title of this Gateway Pundit article says it all. CNN travels to foreign land of Wyoming to ask voters if they support wicked Liz Cheney, stunned by replies. I don't know what universe CNN is living on, and that's really what it feels like. They travel to the foreign land of Wyoming, almost like it's a different planet, expecting to find people in Wyoming that view Liz Cheney as some sort of hero for democracy, and then are stunned by the responses, even though the responses are exactly what you would predict. No one wants anything to do with the war-mongering Cheney family. Again, I don't know what CNN was expecting traveling to Wyoming. I guess hoping that their January 6th coverage might have had an effect on the Wyoming electorate. Well, sad to say, CNN was in for a seriously rude awakening. And so, of course, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you guys that clip. We're going to talk about some of the interactions. Of course, we'll talk about Liz Cheney. And then I want to go into some polling analysis heading into the 2022 midterms. I want to talk about the idea of electability, and specifically in relation to Trump-style candidates, America First candidates, and just in general what my outlook is moving forward. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, friends, take a look at this. CNN travels to foreign land of Wyoming to ask voters if they support wicked Liz Cheney, stunned by replies.
Are you planning to vote for Liz Cheney?
Can I cuss? Hell no.
Are you planning to support Liz Cheney?
Absolutely not.
What are your thoughts about Liz Cheney running for a fourth term?
Personally, I think she's had three too many.
She's done us dirty.
How so?
God, look at how she's done Trump. I'm a Trump fan. I'm sorry.
So she lost your vote because of her role on the January 6th committee and what she's
Yes.
doing about Trump?
Yes. She's supposed to be supporting him. She's a Republican, for crying out loud.
I find her work on the January 6th committee just repulsive.
How do you feel about her work on the January 6th committee and her role?
It's all a hoax. It's all propaganda. Has nothing to do with anything. It's a witch hunt.
Well, she says she's defending what's important to people here in Wyoming, upholding the rule of law, defending the
ain't me.
Constitution.
If that was the rule of law, why doesn't he have a defense team in that courtroom? That ain't the rule of law. That's a kangaroo court. That's not the Wyoming way.
She has been an embarrassment. It's a witch hunt.
Are you proud of her for taking on Donald Trump?
No.
I wouldn't vote for her if she was the last candidate out there.
Not exactly what they were looking for, I'd say. And probably my favorite interaction was with this gentleman right over here. Because for me, this interaction was the perfect representation between the media, left-wing, liberal New York elite and regular people. Leftist, elitist CNN journalists asked, what about the rule of law and democracy? And just a regular old Joe replies with the perfect response of, if we're talking about rule of law, then why does Donald Trump not get to have a defense? It's a kangaroo court. And so right there you can tell the difference. The contrast between common sense American people with their heads screwed on straight, and these elitist, ideological partisans pushing garbage talking points. And of course, another point that should be a serious wake-up call for Democrats moving forward, what seemed to be a common denominator with many of the replies was that Liz Cheney is too caught up in all of this Washington drama garbage, too caught up with going after Donald Trump, that we don't feel like she represents the state of Wyoming or her constituents any longer. And that right there, folks, I believe is going to be the nail in the coffin for Democrats. You know, people need incentive to come out and vote for you. That means you need to have a message. I mean, just look at Obama back in 2008 with the whole hope and change slogan. People thought that voting for Obama was going to change America forever, bring on a new age of prosperity and equality. Of course, that didn't exactly materialize. Obama was a terrible president. But the point is, there was a hopeful motivation factor that was getting people to the polls. What Liz Cheney and, of course, Democrats don't seem to realize is focusing on going after Donald Trump when Donald Trump's not even the president anymore isn't really enticing. When many people are suffering and when there's actual issues that Americans are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and they're looking for actual solutions to these problems, the last thing they want to hear about is Donald Trump or January 6th insurrection and democracy is at stake when they're still paying $4 to $6 a gallon for gas, when they need to take a second mortgage on their home to be able to afford a carton of eggs. And this is a serious political miscalculation from Liz Cheney and the Democrats. They're not appealing to the average American in what they're looking for in politicians and policy. And that right there, I think, is going to be the undoing for these Democrats. Liz Cheney is the warning sign. The poll results are in. Hageman holds commanding lead over Cheney. Liz Cheney is losing to Harriet Hageman in Republican primary polling data by 22%. And to me, that's a microcosm of the whole thing. It's not just a Trump loyalist phenomenon. Liz Cheney betrayed Donald Trump, therefore. It's more so Liz Cheney betrayed her constituents and is focusing on things that they don't want her to focus on. You're a representative and you've gone rogue. Your job is to focus on what the citizens of Wyoming want you to focus on. And that's what I mean by she's gone rogue. And that disconnect is going to be their undoing. Here's a great example.
If they had a comment, as you know, they censured Liz Cheney after she voted to impeach Donald Trump. They don't even recognize her as a Republican. The party declined to go on camera, but told me in a statement the Wyoming Republican Party doesn't take sides in a primary election. We are neutral during this election. We do not back or oppose candidates. It's also worth noting that Liz Cheney's campaign has asked Democrats in Wyoming to switch their party affiliation to Republican so they can vote for her in the Republican primary election in August. The state party also responding to that, saying they are committed to stopping Democrats from crossing over.
Liz Cheney has betrayed her voting base so deeply that she's now essentially campaigning as a Democrat, if you really think about it. I mean, she's been censured by her own party. The Republican Party of Wyoming no longer even views her as a Republican. And while campaigning as a supposed Republican, she's campaigning for Democrat votes. Liz Cheney isn't even fundraising, and Liz Cheney's fundraising, again, isn't coming from the people of Wyoming or the Republicans of Wyoming. It's coming from neocons in other states, and of course, Democrats in states like California. I don't agree with her on anything California Democrats say of Liz Cheney as they donate to her race. And folks, like I was stating earlier, I think this whole Liz Cheney situation is really a microcosm of what's going to be the overarching theme of the 2022 midterms. And here's where I want to talk about electability. There are so many polls that are suggesting that Trump-style America First candidates are underperforming. That's the narrative that the media wants you to think. But once again, I think they are in for a seriously rude awakening. Based on all the push-poll data out there, they're telling you, well, Trump candidates are underperforming ahead of the 2022 midterms. The question is, are they really? My view is, I think they're overperforming. Here's a great example. Here's a Washington Post/ABC News poll a couple months ahead of the 2020 election. Washington Post/ABC News was expecting Joe Biden to win in the state of Wisconsin by 17 points. Not even close to what ended up happening. Well, I think heading into the 2022 midterms, there's a couple factors that people need to be keenly aware of. The first is general left-wing bias in polling data, and the second is obviously voter enthusiasm, which is tied into what I was mentioning earlier when I was mentioning what I think is going to be the downfall for Liz Cheney and these Democrats. They are not appealing to voters. You need a strong message to get people to show up to vote. And I don't think Democrats are all that enthusiastic to head to the polls and cast their vote, where Republicans, we're seeing the exact opposite. I think we're going to see independents split significantly for Republican candidates. We're going to see incredible voter turnout for Republicans, newly registered Republicans showing up to vote, people who maybe were registered in the past but haven't voted in the last maybe election or two, or maybe even haven't voted in decades, are going to show up to vote, and Democrats are going to see the exact opposite. Young voters may be answering in polls that they're going to vote for whoever's the Democrat on the ticket, but young voters aren't going to show up to the polls in significant numbers. Republicans will. And so I think this narrative that Trump-backed Republicans like Herschel Walker and Kari Lake and many others are underperforming and are likely to lose, even though that's what the Democrat media is saying, I think despite the fact that they may be losing in Democrat push polls, when it actually comes to the election, not only are they going to win, but they are going to win bigly. I'm taking a little bit of a leap on this one. It's very possible that I'm wrong. Look, I mean, that's the thing when it comes to predictions. At the end of the day, you either look like a genius or like an idiot, but that's just the way that I feel about this one. And once again, just like CNN was shocked and surprised by what Wyoming voters were telling them, Democrats are going to be seriously shocked and surprised by what voters tell them on Election Day 2022. I think that message is going to be very clearly, take a hike. And Nancy Pelosi, it's time to retire. That's what I got for you guys in this video, though. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and, of course, subscribe if you feel like it. I'm going to get back to work. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.